Today, we're diving into one of the most dramatic, most insane financial stories in modern history, the incredible rise and the spectacular crash of the dot-com bubble. To really get your head around the sheer scale of what we're talking about, you have to start with this one number, $5 trillion. That's how much wealth just vanished from the stock market in only 2 years. It was a complete and utter wipeout. So the big question is, how on earth did a revolution that promised to literally change the world end up in such a massive, fiery collapse? Well, that's the mystery we're going to unravel today. See, the dot-com bubble wasn't some random accident. Nope, it was the result of a perfect storm. A really unique mix of new technology, a flood of easy money, and a radical new mindset that created a frenzy we really hadn't seen before. It really boiled down to 3 key things. First, the internet itself suddenly became available to everybody. I mean, the Mosaic browser in '93, that was the spark that lit the whole fire. Second, money was just so cheap and easy to get. You had low interest rates, and venture capitalists are basically throwing cash at anyone with a .com in their company name. And third, and this is the really dangerous part, a new idea took hold, that the old rules of business, like actually making a profit, were totally obsolete. And that led to the absolute peak of the madness, an era that was defined by this completely new and frankly bizarre way of figuring out what a company was worth. It was all about growth, 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 at any cost. I mean, think about it. This was a complete rejection of the fundamentals. For centuries, you valued a business on its profits, right? Its earnings. But during the dot-com era, that was dismissed as old school. The new thing was all about eyeballs. How many people were looking at your website? The mantra was, get big fast. Just capture the market, and you could worry about making money, later. Maybe. And this wasn't some fringe idea either. It went completely mainstream. In 1999, the Wall Street Journal, the absolute heart of the financial establishment, actually published an article suggesting that profits were a quaint idea. I mean, when the paper of record is telling you profits don't matter anymore, you know you're deep in a bubble. And the result of all this? It was just staggering. The NASDAQ, which is the stock exchange where most of these tech companies were listed, went on an absolute tear. In just 5 years, it shot up over 400%. This wasn't just growth, it was a vertical climb fueled by pure, unfiltered speculation. And the excess, it was just everywhere. You had companies spending millions of dollars on these insane launch parties. During the 2000 Super Bowl, 17 different dot-coms bought multi-million-dollar ads. And you had companies like Pets.com, which was famous for its little sock puppet mascot, that was literally losing money on every single sale because it cost them more to ship the dog food than they sold it for. It was all about marketing, not about a sound business. But you know how it is. A party that's fueled by hype and other people's money can't last forever. And in March of 2000, the music didn't just fade out. It came to a sudden, screeching halt. And the collapse happened so fast. On March 10th, the NASDAQ hit its all-time high. Just 3 days later, some bad news out of Japan kicks off a global tech sell-off. A week after that, a famous article in Barron's magazine called Burning Up comes out warning everyone that these companies were running out of cash. And then came tax day in April, when investors had to sell shares to pay the taxes on all the money they'd made in '99, causing a massive plunge. The panic was officially on. In the aftermath, hundreds of these companies just disappeared. But a few of them not only survived, they went on to become the giants that basically defined our world today. So, what made them different? What was their playbook? Well, let's look at the survivors. You had Amazon, which had a real, tangible business, building this massive logistics machine. eBay was different. It was actually profitable early on with a simple model where it just took a cut of every sale. Google, well, they had a product that was just light years better than everyone else's, and then they paired it with a killer business model in AdWords. And Salesforce basically invented a whole new category with its subscription software, which gave them steady, reliable revenue. So when you look at all of them, the survivors all shared this kind of common code. They had a real plan to actually make money. They didn't just burn through cash like it was nothing. They were focused on solving a real problem for their customers, not just getting eyeballs. And critically, they had leaders with a long-term vision that went way beyond all the hype. Now, it's really easy to look back at the dot-com bubble and just write it off as this huge, colossal failure. But here's the crazy part, the big twist in the story.
In a lot of ways, that spectacular failure was actually necessary to build the internet that you and I use every single day.
And this is the great, ironic silver lining of the crash. During the boom, all these telecom companies, fueled by that same crazy optimism, spent billions and billions of dollars laying a global network of fiber optic cable. When they all went bust, that incredible infrastructure was bought up for pennies on the dollar, and that created the cheap, super fast bandwidth that made Web 2.0 possible. Seriously, things like YouTube, Facebook, Netflix streaming, they just couldn't exist without it. A venture capitalist named Fred Wilson, who lived and invested through all of this, he put it perfectly. He said, "Nothing important has ever been built without irrational exuberance. That mania, as destructive as it was, actually funded the very foundation of our modern digital world. It was a chaotic, painful, but in the end, a surprisingly productive failure." And that leaves us with a really important question for today. As we see these new waves of hype and excitement around technologies like AI, have we actually learned the lessons from the past? Are we any better at telling the difference between true innovation and just irrationality? Or is this cycle of boom, bust, and then rebuilding just the price we have to pay for progress?